Guys, the trilogy fight between Stipe and DC is happening on August 15th. Is the winner of that matchup the heavyweight GOAT? Sound off in the comments. What's up, Barn Hill family? Back again, your favorite brothers. This time we're breaking down the trilogy fight. Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. I'm very excited for this one.
Yeah, I mean, this week couldn't pass by any slower. I think I'm so excited for this one, and I've almost been looking over this weekend's cards for next weekend's because it's such a stacked card, topped with what's probably the greatest heavyweight matchup of all time.
And I will just note that anytime you're looking past a Derek Lewis fight, because the fight coming afterwards is so exciting, there's something to be said for that, and just how exciting this actually is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But no, I'm so excited for this one, and I've actually yesterday I watched Stipe Daniel 2, and then a couple days before that I watched Stipe Daniel 1, just because they were on my YouTube feed, and I was just like jonesing for it. And it was, for me, I'll talk about those two fights first, and I think the third one will be different than those two. The pace was so fun, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was out there watching it, just cooling down after a workout, and the reason people are so attracted to the heavyweight division is because there's dire consequences with any mistake, right? Daniel Cormier was winning the second fight until he got stopped and finished like that,
right?
And
in the first fight, Stipe made a careless error separating from the clinch. So
right. I mean, the first fight, there's less to see there because it was so much shorter. But the pace is so fun to watch because they're both so high level and they're both so big that they have to conserve a little bit of their energy. So you watch it happen and they're feeling themselves out. And for some reason, I understood why the heavyweight division has always been the favorite for people, not just because they're so big, but there's something about the pace that they fight at. Yeah. And just, it's sometimes the lighter guys, like people around my size and your size, they buzz around the mat so much that you almost can't even take it in. But you watch those two monsters out there and it's just special. I don't know.
It's like two titans.
I was in awe of it. I was like, this is just so good. And I think this match will be different for a few reasons. We can get into that in a minute, but I just understand now why the heavyweight division, from boxing in its early days to currently in the UFC, why it's such a special division.
Well, the heavyweight division is really kind of the tide that rises and falls with the sport itself. Yeah. When you have a dominant heavyweight champion, and not even just MMA, when Mike Tyson is the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali, you have Lennox Lewis. Yeah. When these mega stars, when you have a heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury, that's a mega star, that has some good competition and there's some fun fights, it just rises all ships.
Yeah. The world takes
the high tide that rises all ships when the heavyweight division is good. And it couldn't be better than Daniel Cormier, Stipe 3, because you have two guys that are so high level, that are so evenly matched, that it's just really something special, that I'm not sure that we'll see a trilogy like this in the heavyweight division that's this impactful really for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the future of the division. I think there's the heavier divisions have always had these older guys in them, and not that that's a bad thing, but because they were once younger guys. But with Ngannou, he's a hot, I don't want to call him a prospect anymore. He's a staple
hot
in the
contender,
heavyweight. Yeah, hot contender, staple in the division now. All signs point to him being the champion next, and potentially being the most dominant champion if he can keep this kind of reign of terror going. But it's really interesting to see, because we're almost going to see a changing of the guard. If Stipe leaves, if Daniel leaves, Daniel already said he's leaving. Stipe has kind of hinted at he's got a bad eye, and nobody would blame him if he did leave. And what else is there for Stipe to do? He beat Ngannou. Who else? I would put him at winning against everybody out there, potentially besides DC, and then if we want to bring John Jones in, maybe John Jones. But I mean, what else is there to do for him if he beats DC this next weekend?
Well, I think you said it. The only thing left, if he wanted to do it, would be John Jones,
and that would make him the greatest fighter of all time.
And and that would be one. It would be because they backed the Brinks truck up and made Stipe a very, very wealthy man.
Yeah.
And then, secondly, and probably more important to Stipe, I don't know Stipe, but just judging by what I know of him and his character, I think he's kind of a prideful person, and I'm not sure that he's as motivated by money as a lot of fighters are.
Yeah.
That said, I think he would take a big payday to fight John Jones, but I think even more so, he would love the opportunity to solidify and staple himself as the greatest fighter of all time. And I do think that if he were to get past DC, win 2 of the 3 fights against DC, and then fight and beat John Jones, that would make him the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get ahead of myself here, because he could easily not beat DC on in 2 weeks from now. But I think that this is very intriguing, and I think the only thing left for him, should he win this fight, would be John Jones. And if I was him, that would be the only fight that I would probably take. Would you come back for anything other than that?
This is just a cash grab for me, and I do believe that under these particular circumstances and this particular person, this could happen. Tyson Fury, we spoke about him earlier.
Yep.
He said he will fight in the UFC at some point in his life, and he actually called out Stipe. He goes, I would like to fight Stipe in the UFC, not boxing, which I love, because I've had it up to here with boxers calling out MMA fighters saying they'd kick their ass. But you got to come do it in boxing. Yeah, like, Dylan Dennis was on Helwani, and he was talking about how Ryan Garcia calls him out, and now he's like, I'll go box him, but if he actually wants to fight, we can fight. And I mean, he won't last a minute.
It can be in the Bellator cage, or it can be on the street corner in Calabasas, or wherever it is that Ryan Garcia lives,
Right. But the thing is, like, these boxers think that they're the toughest dudes out there, and it's baffling to me that boxers still think that way. Yeah, they've got good hands, but a complete fighter will destroy you time and time again. If you don't realize that, go back to UFC 1 and just watch how grappling, takes control of a fight.
And guys, just to note here, Nick does have a professional boxing record. Yeah. He's 1-0 with 1 knockout. So this is not meant to be a knock to boxers. This is just talking about the completeness of what a real true fight actually entails.
Right. And if you're out there and you're a boxing fan, which you should be, because it's a wonderful sport, I'm a big fan of it. I think the best boxers in MMA that know how to mix in a crisp style of boxing are generally very successful. Look at Conor McGregor, just for example. But it makes me angry when these guys are like, oh, I would beat so-and-so's ass, but he needs to come over here. He can only use 2 of those weapons. He can only throw 4 different punches, really, right. and we have to do it my way or the highway.
But it's not Tyson Fury.
But Tyson Fury apparently wants to come over and fight literally the baddest man on the planet, arguably, with Stipe Miocic. And I do think when he says that, he's sincere about it. He's already gotten with Darren Till and trained. He's already shown interest in it, and he's all about a show first and foremost. He's all about entertaining, but he's also all about just defying all odds and just coming out on top and
really testing himself. He seems like the kind of person that really likes a mental, physical, tough challenge. I mean, he would be so much the underdog in that fight if he were to take it against Stipe. That it wouldn't even be funny, but I think he would do it. And like you said, when the question originally was, what would make you come back if you were Stipe? So you're saying essentially
a cash grab
with Tyson Fury or John Jones.
Yeah, I don't think he's already beaten Ngannou once. I don't think we need to see that again. I don't think John Jones will come up for right now. I think he's going to stay where he's at and just continue the reign that he's got.
I think John Jones is more interested in a fight where Israel Adesanya comes up to 205 rather than him running up to heavyweight. He hasn't said that because he keeps hinting with some comments on social media about how he wants to go to heavyweight. I think he's more interested in the Izzy fight because I think in his mind, he thinks that's an easier fight for him.
Yeah, and also I think the further you get away from your weight, your desired weight class, the harder it is to get back there. Right. And I understand that he's at 205 right now. He can make 205 every time right now, But if he's waiting for Izzy, which will be about a year or two until that happens, and I do think it will happen. But after he does that, win, lose, or draw, he can move up to heavyweight and become the body of a heavyweight and start his reign there. And I think that's his goal, but I think you're spot on. I think he's going to wait around there, beat a few more people. Dominic Reyes would be I need to see that matchup again, but I think he's going to wait for Izzy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of people just say, oh, he's going to move up to heavyweight or, he's going to go up a weight class. And what we found is, when people go from like 135 to 145, it's a new coat of paint. When people go from 145 to lightweight, it's a new coat of paint, and so on and so forth. Fabricio Verdum showed Alexander Gustafsson that it's not all fun and games at the heavyweight division.
No.
Nobody thought that Gus was going to get ragdolled and submitted by a much older, past his prime Fabricio Verdum. So, quote unquote, moving up to the heavyweight division from light heavyweight, I'll just point out that could be a 65-pound difference. And even though Gus weighed in at 245, it's just a different breed of guys up there. Like you said, it's like watching two titans just square off in the Coliseum or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, the pace is different, and John is known for having a great gas tank, especially for being such a big guy. But once you start carrying 240 pounds, 250 pounds, even all the way up to the 265 limit, you start sacrificing gas and energy for sheer power. And it takes some getting used to. When you're a kid and you're learning how to develop as an athlete and play sports, and you hit a 6-inch growth spurt, you have to unlearn everything you knew with that body and then relearn it with a new body. And if you're moving up,
your motor skills suffer big time in the beginning. Yeah.
Even if something you guys can try if you're fighters or if you you just love to train in a fighting style. Go live where you're at and at the weight class you're at or the weight you're at, and then drop 15, 20 pounds and do your workout, your shadow boxing or whatever it may be. You'll feel a noticeable difference in your speed and your power and all of that stuff. And for better or for worse, you will be faster. You won't hit as hard, but you move a little bit quicker. Your joints won't hurt as much, but you won't be, crushing the bag like you were before. So I think
it's
John
something to think about.
John will notice a difference when he makes that full adjustment, and I don't think he needs to go too high with his weight if he does go up. And I know we're going on and on about John Jones, but if he sits around that 230 weight, 235, that's perfect for him, and I think he can utilize his speed and explosive against heavyweights in a good way, in a positive way. Anything over that, he might kind of lose it.
I agree. Well, sort of the question of the day that I would like for you guys to chime in and let us know in the comments what you think here. Yeah. But the real question that I want to ask you is, whoever the winner is, whatever the outcome of this trilogy fight, is the man who gets his hand raised at the end as the winner of the fight and the champ, is that person to date the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time?
It's hard to say they're not, especially as far as the UFC exclusively goes.
Right.
As far as the UFC goes, yes. If Stipe wins against DC twice, he's the GOAT. If DC can win, he's the GOAT. And kind of he went and did so much at the light heavyweight division. It's hard not to say he's kind of the GOAT already. Right. I'm not going to say that, but if he beats Stipe, it's hard to say he's not the GOAT for all weight classes. I mean, George St. Pierre's a legend, but he really only went to a different weight class one time, and it was kind of
the opportune moment. Yeah,
right.
For sure.
But what if Fabricio Verdum goes over to Bellator and takes a title from Ryan Bader?
Definitely case we made for Fedor.
Fabricio's went and collected all of the belts from all the organizations. Now, I still don't know if I'd put him over the winner of next week's matchup, but I mean that's the one thing I'm super excited about the future of the heavyweight division for. I want to see somebody like a Francis Ngannou reign 4, 5, 6 title fights, and then we know, okay, we can rest at night and say, okay, Ngannou is the greatest of all time for heavyweights. Period. In the story. Yeah. The other guys, fall in line wherever they may, but it doesn't really matter.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that yes, the winner of this fight, without a shadow of a doubt, is the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time, and I'll give you the reason why. It's two reasons. What a reason for each guy. So for Stipe, if he wins, that will give him one. He will have the longest title defense in UFC history, which was 4. And so then hard. On top of that, he will have beaten Daniel Cormier twice. And Daniel Cormier is not only a 2-division champion, he has also never lost in the heavyweight division except to Stipe.
Right.
So if you take a guy, he's been undefeated in the division his entire life, Olympian, and you beat him twice, and you've held the belt longer than any other UFC champion, you're the GOAT.
Yeah.
But then I'll flip that on you. If DC wins the fight, then DC has beaten twice the guy who had the longest reign in UFC history with the belt.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of hard to make the argument that the winner is not the GOAT.
Yeah.
Of the heavyweight
The true
division.
winners are the fans, because I'm so glad they made this third fight happen. Everybody knew it needed to happen, and DC had kind of talked about retiring a few times. And I'm so glad that he
this is going to be a barn burner.
Yeah, I think
and this is one of those ones where like sometimes you feel like with like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, when that happened, you're like, man, this is so past the expiration date.
Yeah.
And you look at Stipe and you look at DC, and they're both older guys. DC's obviously older than Stipe. He's in his 40s. But man, this is the heavyweight division of the world.
Yeah.
This is 40 age is just a number. 40 is just more
Man
power,
strength.
more power for the punch.
More
So,
dad strength on him. Yeah, so I'm super excited for it. I think it's going to do really good pay-per-view numbers.
I do too.
We'll break down the entire card later.
Well,
but,
I think we'll give a prediction probably next week. So you guys stay tuned for that. We just broke down and gave a prediction for the Derek Lewis fight, so we won't get ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah.
We'll wait until we see the guys and see some of the embeddeds and see how they're looking, how they're weighing in and all that, and then we'll give an educated hypothesis.
Yeah, and the one takeaway that I mentioned at the beginning that we would get to is I think the difference in this fight and the other fights is I think Daniel sees that light at the end of the tunnel. He knows that if he gets through this, he's the GOAT. He's going to implement some of that wrestling.
Yeah, I think so.
I think if he does, I think if it's a safe bet. No one would hate on him. No one would blame him for it.
I certainly wouldn't.
And I know he's going to get in there and strike with Stipe a bit, but I think he's going to take some rounds and try to use that wrestling to just get to that light at the end of the tunnel and be considered the GOAT.
Absolutely.
And walk off into the sunset. I would love to see
further
that
breakdown coming, but Stipe wins if he can get to the body again.
Those were some beautiful strikes. He kept throwing a jab out just to get Daniel's hands up, and then he would slip over and just land this perfect shot. I mean, it literally was like a video game. He landed it, I think maybe roughly 8 to 10 times in a row. Just slip, roll.
Yeah,
slip.
It was wild.
And Daniel was just letting it happen, but eventually it started to take its toll.
Yeah, it was almost like a video game.
It was just like a video game.
So precise, but... Anyways, guys, we're super excited for that fight. More to come on that. I feel like it's such a big fight that it deserves to have us do a couple of videos around it. So we definitely will be coming out with some more content, the Cormier and Stipe trilogy.
Yep.
But for now, that's it. Let us know, guys, is the winner the GOAT?
Yeah.
We
want to know what you think.
Yeah.
Have a great night,
Not you,
guys.
but you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, not that guy, but
Yeah,
you.
this guy right here. All right,
care,
guys. Have a great one.